And hopefully, as people are beginning to stream in, we can anchor our thoughts here just a little bit as we get started. And so I just want to give a couple thoughts before I launch into some of our content. This live program is being presented on Wednesday, April 15th, 2020, as many states are facing at least 2 more weeks of a stay-home order. And at this time, it's uncertain if we're going to receive an all clear. I'm hoping that we will. And at that time, we can start opening our businesses and getting back into it again. And so I'm hoping that for those of you with me on the call today, that you're remaining hopeful, because I am. And I'm looking at what do we need to prepare now for when we are on the backside of this event. A friend of mine posted a great meme today. I live in Northern Illinois, and we got a slight dusting of snow this morning, if you can believe it, in April. And she posted a picture of her backyard, and the caption said, "Oh, thank goodness it's December. You guys, I had the craziest dream, ... And I laughed out loud because that is exactly what this feels like, is a dream. And so during this time, we need to get ready. We need to get prepared. And they say that we teach what we need to learn. And in the case of this series I've been doing for you every Wednesday, that's exactly right. Because as I prepare what I want to say to you, I have to give deeper thought myself to what am I thinking about regarding our challenges and what we're going to face. And so today we had over 100 people pre-registered on the webinar. I hope that you are here and you get your bonus offer that you receive for having registered for the webinar in advance, and that bonus will be coming to you by email either later today or tomorrow. So look for that goodie. We also have people that are popping in on YouTube, checking out, seeing what's going on. And then, of course, anybody watching it delayed, happy to see you too. So let's dig in. Are you ready to go? Now, today there is going to be a poll. That's something a little new. And we're going to be doing that because we are using a webinar platform. We'll be able to do that. So if you are on YouTube or you're watching it later, you're not in the poll. But for those of you who are in on the webinar, you'll be able to do that. So get ready. I'll explain that to you in just a second. At the bottom of your window, I have a place where I can post the poll, and you're going to see it pop up, and you'll be able to indicate which of these categories best describes you in the business you are in. Because here's my answer to the question: when is it the right time to start selling again? The answer is, it depends. What does it depend on? I think that the runway, the length of the runway that you are sitting on, has the biggest impact to the action I want you focused on today. Let me explain. I think there are 3 main categories. We have a short runway, meaning that the time between now and when the customers are knocking on your door ready to buy is very short. When we get the all clear, bam, you got people on your doorstep. And those categories would be things like restaurants, salons, workout facilities. I know I have quite a few people registered from the park and rec industry. The doors will blow off for those who are super excited to get back and working out and using your facilities. And what about non-emergent medical services? Things like the dentist, the chiropractor, the eye doctor, the veterinarian, things that you were able to put off because it wasn't crisis zone. Those are all going to pop up. So if you fit any of those categories, or I didn't name your industry, but you still think you have a very short runway, meaning up and running right away, then you are category 1 or group 1. Remember that. The poll is right around the corner, because I'm going to want you to tell me which group you believe you fit into. All right, number 2 is going to be our second, the mid-runway people. Those are the ones that, yes, you're going to have customers right away, but getting back to your new normal or whatever your pace is going to be at the back end of this, it's just a smidgy longer runway for you. Those are things like retail outside of the grocery store market, the housing market, professional services like your attorneys, your CPAs, your financial planners, and anything that's small social scale, like the cinema, small theater, or possibly churches and synagogues. You're in group 2. And then my third group, that's the one I'm sitting in. We're the ones that have the long runway. We have the longest period of time between now and when we're operating back at full capacity. And those are going to be our travel industry, sporting events in large settings, and anything that's a large group meeting, like professional speakers and trainers. And today, because I looked at the pre-register list, I am loaded with people in the travel industry. I love you guys. I'm glad you're here, and we're all kind of figuring this out together, aren't we? So there you have it. The short runway, open for business right away. Number 2, the mid runway, it's going to happen, but not get up to speed immediately. And my third runway, you've got a little bit longer for your planning. So we're going to give this a go now. Hope you guys are on the session, because here comes the poll. I'm going to throw it out and see what you think. So it has been launched. Go ahead and ring in. I'm going to keep talking while you're ringing in. And so you've got 3 categories: the short, the mid, and the long. And let's see how it comes in. I don't actually know if you can see that screen at the same time I can, and I'm not going to take the time to figure it out because we got content to get to. And so, yes, I'm getting a note from someone that yes, you can see the poll. So look at that come in. Also, this is a great time for me to point out to those of you who are on the webinar platform, at the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A. Actually, it may not be at the bottom, might be on the side, depending on your device. And it says Q&A. If you click on that, you can actually send me a direct question, and I watch for those. If you're on YouTube and the chat window's going, that I'm not paying much attention to today, but we will check it later for that location. So we're just about done, and just as I suspected, about 55% of you consider yourself on a long runway. And I love it that there's 4% that either can't predict or you won't assign. Now, what's interesting about that is that you may recognize how I described it, but you don't necessarily agree with the runway pattern that I put you in. And there's nobody on today's call who's identifying as being closed. And that's fantastic. All right, so I'm going to end the poll there. Thank you for playing. I'm going to pull that out of the way. And Lisa, just confirm for me that that poll is out of your view. That would be great. Oh, there is someone else who cannot see the poll. And so I will let you know that it's almost equally divided between 1 and 2 as a ring in, and then group 3, the longest, is the majority of the people today on the call. All right, so what do we do with this information? Well, first of all, I wanted to divide you. The reason I divided you is because I want to give you 3 particular things today. I want to talk about identifying the assumed needs of your buyer, the action step for external messaging, and suggestions for internal prep. And that's what we're going to do right now. So I want to focus first on the people with the short runway. Let's think about that for a second. You have the services that have the most urgency after the all clear. A meal I don't have to cook, hair that gets colored in, and nails that get put back on. People are in desperate need of something, and they're returning to you because they need it immediately, just barely past non-essential. I'm happy for those of you on the short runway. I think that you're going to be back to a new normal very quickly. And here's what my suggestion is for prep. I want you to use this time to get your systems in order and improve your processes now. We've been secret shopping for over 15 years, even back when times were good. And the consistent thing we find, and where we give dings on a report back, usually fall into one of 2 categories: the attitude of the people delivering the service, or places where the system or the process did not make sense. It could have been smoother, could have been better for the customer, client, patient, or patron. And so now is the time that you can review all of your systems, even though you may not have patrons right now. What could you be doing smoother and better when the doors open again? You've heard me say it every week I've been with you. I believe that disruption is the perfect time to reset your service levels. And this applies to your group more than any of the others because it's going to happen quickly. I'd like you to bring your team together virtually to work on customer service skills and try to establish a new culture if you need it. I really see this like turning the calendar on a new year. You know how it feels when January comes around and we have this New Year's resolution feel? We're going to do things better and different. We could have done the same mentality and behavior change on December 1, but we didn't. We kind of stack it up and we wait for that clean, fresh start. Well, boy, you can't get a cleaner or fresher start than following this disruption. So let's re-energize with some of this. All right, what's it going to look like now? I know this is what we used to do, but how are we going to do it now so we can build that enthusiasm? I also think you in Group 1 have the ability to start thinking about some clever promotions for when the time is right. So creativity plus humor equals connection. So I'm going to give you a brief example. I wrote about this in a blog last week. If I was in the salon business, I would think about sending out a message either on social media or maybe even print media that says, are you thinking ahead to getting in line for your salon treatment? That would be wordsmith, just a little bit better than that, but you get the gist. You catch their attention. Are you the ones who need it? And then at the bottom, it would say, make your appointment and we'll send you a free paper bag to get here. Joke being that I can hardly be seen in public, so I need a paper bag over my head to get there. You have tongue in cheek, and in that industry, I think you can get away with it. Not all of you can, because some things are not funny at all. But in some industries, we can find that little creativity, add a splash of humor, and we begin to make a connection. And it's also letting people know now is the time to go ahead and schedule those appointments. We might have to move them. I know my hairstylist reached out to me directly, moved my appointment and rescheduled it with great hope that she doesn't have to call me again. But at least she has me on her calendar and I'm not out to the wind, either choosing a different provider or putting it off any longer. Okay, next. You could consider an old-fashioned postcard mailing to your more frequent flyers with clever wording or a special invitation to return. And you may or may not end up using the virus as any part of your messaging. I don't have a strong opinion for the short runway people, whether you do or don't say anything about the virus. I do have a strong opinion for the midway runway people, and we're headed to you next. So for all of you who are runway, use the time to runway one, short one. Use the time to get your systems in place. Bring your team together now. Start looking at where creativity fits in and make a plan for how you want to message and even customize messaging directly to your clients. Okay, my second runway group. You represent the services that are eager to return. We are eager to return to, but we might be a little cautious about re-engaging. The first time that we re-enter a non-essential retail store, a mall, or a place that doesn't sell groceries, I'm imagining myself feeling maybe just a smidgy hesitant. I'm thinking things like, do I really need to be here? Am I exposing myself to more potential germs? What deals can I find? You see how the mind of this buyer, and you need to answer this for yourself. What is your end user, your buyer, thinking and saying to other people as it relates to their encounter with you? Let me repeat that. Put your head in the space of your buyer. What are they thinking? And what are they saying to others about their experience with you? If I'm turning to my husband before I walk into a department store of some kind, and I'm saying to him, ooh, I wonder what kind of deals they're going to have, they're going to be eager to sell, then I'm an eager buyer. But if I'm turning to him and saying, you know, I've gone this long without refreshing my XYZ, do I really need to go to the store today? Those are the things I'm thinking and saying. And you want to log that, not log it in, but tie it in to what you're doing with your messaging. For example, we are currently in the market for a new house, and we're going to be relocating at some point. We're in the very, very early stages. And prior to the virus, I was actively looking at houses online and deciding when we might make a trip to the new state we're moving to look at houses. Once this happened, we put the screeching halt on it, put on the brakes. But you know what? The savvy real estate agent in the state where we're moving, he didn't pull off the brakes. He didn't take his foot off the gas pedal like I talked about last week. He is still giving me every morning any matches that fit my criteria. So that I'm creating a list. And if those houses are still available when we get this mid-runway all clear, we're probably making a trip. But it's by him staying top of mind with me that has allowed me to keep saying, yeah, we're going to do that at some point. I'm not buying today and I'm probably not buying tomorrow, but my mindset is still that of a buyer. Many of you mentioned in the poll that you're in the mid-runway category. What's your buyer thinking? Here's your preps. I'd like you to create messaging that addresses this internal voice of the common buyer, of your common buyer, and maybe there's an email. So for example, this realtor that I just talked about, I wish he was listening right now, because I would tell him, maybe he sends an email that says, wondering if now is the perfect time to buy your new home? Click here to get our 5 questions to ask before your next tour. So now he gets a re-engagement from me because he posed to me a bonus item, and by my clicking to get the bonus item, I have re-engaged. We demonstrated that to you today. we put out that if you wanted to pre-register for this webinar, you would get a special bonus. And many of you did that. You may or may not care about the bonus, but the idea is you re-engaged when you saw the opportunity to do so. And that keeps me top of mind with you and the relationship that we've had, even though it feels one-sided of me to a camera. This is exactly what I'm talking about for the mid-runway engagement. I know that I have one group on here today. I'm so glad you guys are here. This is an association of people dedicated to customer service in the Springfield, Illinois area. Hi, guys. For those of you who joined, thank you for jumping in. Many of you in that group, I know you fit the midway category and mid-runway category. And so what I just said really applies. There is the telling your customer what they might be thinking and following it up with wording that addresses that with a bonus. Second thing you could consider, although I'm not a big fan of discounts and coupons as a first approach to selling, in this case, it might be good to have a short-term opportunity. For example, let's say you're a furniture store. You absolutely fall in that mid-runway category. It's non-essential, but there was obviously some people already in your market before this hit. Maybe your ad is going to say something like this: until June 1, receive $200 off when you spend $1,000. Now, yes, that's the same as a 20% discount, but I gave the 1,000 threshold placeholder rather than just the 20% sale. That's going to encourage people to spend more, not just buy one recliner at $500, but buy the recliner and the couch for $1,500 and then get my $200 off. But then you got to remember to stick to the deadline and not just replace it with your 4th of July sale and your next holiday sale. It's got to be noteworthy and short term. Noteworthy and short term. And I suggest in this mid group that we don't make any mention of the virus in the marketing materials or messaging. We are going to be so fatigued. I'm already fatigued of hearing about it. And I feel like part of a fresh start is let's move on with fresh messaging. Now, your team may need to come back in batch format. And what I mean by that is, let's say that you employ 20 people and you are a boutique gift shop. You probably don't need all 20 people back at the same time because you may not have people beating down your door right away for that type of service. So what do I mean by staged return? The first third, group 1, come back into action right now, prepare to reopen in the same ways that I mentioned earlier for the short runway people. Get ready now. Those people are likely to be your leaders, those with seniority, or talents that are specific to that task. And they're employed right now or at the soonest time that you can afford to bring them back. Then the next third is asked to return right before the anticipated reopen date. They get quickly brought up to speed on any changes in your process, and they really need to be coached on attitude and service levels that you expect from them. This group needs to be quick learners and have the ability to have a stellar attitude even during the challenging times. They set the tone. And then your third and final group will be the people who are asked to staff the stations and provide frontline assist right at the time you go live. And that might be in the form of administrative support, or they fulfill tasks that are only needed when the doors are open, like frontline staffing. Those are the suggestions that I have for my mid-runway. Now, the biggest group on the call today, 55% of you represent, or at least at the time we did the poll, 55% of you represent the long runway. And I get it, I'm there with you. We represent the group that probably has the most lasting adjustments to make from this experience. And anyone who delivers services in large group settings, we may not see a back to capacity status until a vaccine is found. And that means we have to think differently. Now, again, I'm not saying this is true of all of you on long runway, but it is for many of you. In fact, on April 9th, ESPN.com put out a very interesting survey that was conducted by Seton Hall University Stillman School of Business. And that said, 72% of Americans polled said they would not attend a sporting event until a large sporting event, until a vaccine was available. So they have already gotten people saying, I will or won't do things. Only 13% of Americans said they'd feel comfortable attending games again, the same way they had in the past. It is possible that we will see a long-term change in our buyers. So what does that mean for all of us? Does it mean I'm hopeless? Does it mean I need to change careers? Absolutely not. It means that we might have to learn to think a little differently. So this may mean, one, any staff that you had working for you already, they might have to seek employment elsewhere. And in the meantime, your buyers may be slow to reconnect, but they still need the service when they do. You may need to pivot. I know on this call, I have a few consultants, a few speakers, some of you in the education field that provide consulting in that organization or in that industry. And we may need to pivot in the way we deliver the service in ways that you never thought possible before. I think it's very interesting in my industry. Everybody thinks that the best meetings are live. And when live meetings couldn't take place, people quickly adjusted to, how can I do things different and still engage in this online platform? And it's not the same. Because if I was there live, I would see your faces. I would see, where am I connecting? Where can I go deeper into this content? Or where is it disconnecting and I need to clarify? I don't see any of that. All I see right now is this little tiny dot. And I'm assuming there's people on the back end. It's a very different energy. But you can see by the work I'm doing now, and if you followed me the other weeks, there is still content here. And there are things to learn and actions to take, even though I can't be in front of you live. So what prep do I recommend for those of you on the long runway? First, messaging to your clients has to be very well thought out and not tone deaf. If 2 days after this all clear, I get a mailing that encourages me to take a cruise, I'm going to roll my eyes at the waste of postage. And those of you in travel that are with me, I know that's hard to hear, especially if cruise was your niche. Ironically enough, every year I pick an industry to niche my work, where I spend a lot more of my focus. And the reason that you guys are here is because in 2019 and 2020, my niche was luxury travel. I was spending a lot of my time learning about you and finding messaging that mattered to you. Guess what? I'm on the long runway right with you. Because just as you are looking for people to buy travel, I will be looking for people in your industry that want to hire me to speak. And we both may have a long wait. So instead, what do you need to do? You need to think about relationship building. I know you're already doing this, but let's say it again. You've got to be top of mind awareness campaigns for when the buyer is ready to return. I believe that especially for the travel group here, it is hope. You are giving hope to people to start planning. In fact, just last night, not making this up, just last night at the dinner table, my husband said, you know, the 3 places I want to go as soon as we have an all clear? And then he rattled them off. He is speaking from a place of hope because we're getting a little stir crazy here in the house. And so first thing he goes to is travel. So if you were his travel advisor, you better be the next thing he's thinking about. I have hope of going here. Let's gather some data and we will buy from those we already have a relationship from. And I'm hoping it's the same way for you. When you're ready for a professional speaker again, a variety of people will come top of mind. And maybe by relationship building, I get to be one of those people. So I'm showing you, I'm doing exactly what I'm asking you to do. Second thing, keep your team updated. Now, I'm a solopreneur, and I know a few others on the call today. It is just you. You're a company of one. I'm a company of one in-house. And so this part doesn't apply to us, but it does apply to any of you who have an employee. And the answer is, keep your team updated with honest, transparent communication on your current situation. What are we doing with external messaging? When do we hope to reopen? What adjustments need to happen in the meantime? I will keep you as informed as I am, as my staff member. And that's how we build that internal rapport and trust and confidence. I don't have a team today, but if I did, back when I used to manage multiple people, this is one of the things I did feel was a strength, is I tried to keep people as updated as I could with non-classified information on here's what I'm seeing happening, here's how I think we're going to adjust. Information is king during this time. And then most importantly for you long runway people, review your current offerings and discover different ways to deliver your services if possible. My industry has had to find a way to do this overnight, and we've gotten so creative in how we do it. But could a travel agent that once only focused on large group tours, could you change and for short time create road trips for couples or mystery journeys for families that don't include air and ship, the 2 things that people might be hesitant to re-engage? No, it probably doesn't have the same income level as a whole group of people taking a cruise, but it is a pivot. And it is during this time that we need to pivot the most. The biggest hurdle for the long runway people is the amount of time that we have to sit on the tarmac to even begin to start our engine. Having the ability to take an extended rest and still stay afloat is not a luxury that every company has. If you're sitting there and you have the ability just to take a deep breath and use this time to take care of yourself, then by all means do that, and we'll keep updating as time goes on. But not all of you can do that, and I don't have the wisdom to tell you how to handle the difficult part of this experience where we just don't know. It's the unknown. But I do have the skills for smart communication with our customers, no matter which runway you face. So what we've been working on, and we hope to have this ready soon for you, is 3 different 6-packs of videos that you can use for internal training. And they've been regrouped in a way that they fit categories. The first one is to reset your service levels during a time of disruption. The second one is going to be the right words to reconnect with your customer. And the third 6-pack of videos will be internal communication and tips for attitude resets for your team. We'll be working on those and keep you posted. You can let me know privately if that's something you're interested in. And we just want to make sure we give to you the services that you need to be back on track. So it all boils down to this. And by the way, I should have been checking all this time for questions, and I do have a couple. Before I give you the summary, I'd moved my own screen out of the way so that I could watch my notes, and now we have some notes here. Let me see. Let's see what questions I have. Here is the first one. The person says, not sure if I would be a group 1 or 2. Oh, because I'm with School Toolbox. I love you guys. Let me tell you about them in just a second. So if the schools open up, then I can solicit business, but I think they will stay closed. So then how do I get new business? So it is so great to see you here, Sheila. You guys are a fantastic past client of mine. Let me briefly just tell everybody else what your deal is. I love this company. It's called School Toolbox. They're located right here in my hometown of Sycamore, Illinois. And what they do is package together the required school items for your student. And they can do it as a PTA fundraiser where the boxes are automatically delivered to the classroom, or they can send it out directly to the home. It is a fantastic, I just have so much respect for this company. But you're absolutely right, Sheila. You could go either direction. I am going to go into this with hope. And I believe that you are on a number 2, a mid-runway, because when these doors open up and we have it all clear, people will be rushing to get their situation figured out. I would go into this with messaging, assuming that school is going to be back in place in the fall, but you may not have the buying runway that you're used to. You might have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you guys sell in the spring to get ready for fall school, and you may not be able to do that. Sell right now may not work, so you may have to ramp up your selling and your processes to be ready to do it very late, which means how does expedited shipping work? How does making sure you have the right team to get it packed? All of that is going to fall under the category of looking at your processes and making sure that you are ready to go. I do not think you're on the 3rd runway. Oh, I'm sorry. You want to know if you're in group 1 or 2. I almost put you in 3. Sorry about that. I definitely think 2 over 1. I do not think the gates to buying the supplies is going to happen the moment it opens. And I think that that is really important. Somebody's asking on the chat if I'm going to send out a recording of this. Absolutely. We will load that up to my social media channels, specifically my YouTube channel, and it'll be there for you to start from the very beginning and get a running start to all of this. So thank you, Sheila, for being here. And you guys just have a great product. There is light at the other end of this. Also, a pivot for you possibly is for those who may have to stay home and school. It's a whole new category for you, right? The homeschool supplies. What does that look like? I don't know that your owner is interested in pivoting to that, but it's something you could take and talk about. I saw a great meme the other day. I think it was yesterday. See if I can get it right. It was a post that says, next week, my child's teacher assignments comes out for next year. I'm praying it isn't me again. Or something like that. I haven't got it quite right, but you get the gist. All those at-home teachers that never wanted to be at-home teachers, they probably need some supplies too. It might be a switch in how you market your product. Let's see if I have any other questions. Otherwise, I'm going to take you to my close and keep us on time as promised. And so I believe that it all comes down to the basic needs first. Doesn't it make sense? We care about the food and the shelter. Once we get that met, we go to the next level of needs. Personal pleasure is going to quickly follow. I can't get to the hairdresser fast enough. And I think there's a lot of people with crazy hair that feel the same way. For some buyers, that may be sooner than others based on confidence, the level of their wealth, or the income stream and personal passions. What I mean by that is I have a buddy that the first places he is going is not to the barbershop, but to the golf course. And so what happens is that other things come into play here that decides, your buyer decides how fast they're going to do business with you. And we can't predict and we don't know, but we can use these steps that I gave you to work on that, work through this. So here's my short recap as we get ready to close. For the short runway, I want you to get ready now through system improvement and team prep. Guest Encounters, Guest Enterprises has all kinds of tools to help you do that, and we're here when you're ready. Reach out and we'll get you the tools for a fast ramp up. For the mid-runway people, I want you to be thinking about clever messaging prep now. You don't send it out yet, you just get it ready, because that's time consuming if you're not good at it. And I want you to think about how you can batch up your team to ramp up to meet that slow takeoff that you may feel. And then my long runway, look at a pivot option and stay connected with your buyers until it's time for takeoff. I want to end by saying the same way I started. I still believe 5 weeks into me being at home that there is great hope for us being back in business. Maybe not the exact same way you were before. So I hope that the challenge re-energizes you and you look for fresh ways, because disruption is the perfect time to reset your customer service. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next week with a brand new topic. And I'd love to hear what you want to hear. Send me a note.